all, you did talk about a 40K ETH and different timelines, and I know that's been tempered a little bit over time. But any update on where you see this run, and is it all a function of adoption?
Again, I'm using base case probabilities, no certainties. I still think ETH finishes this year closer to 15,000 than to 10,000. Just by the nature of what is actually going on right now and the chart patterns and the people who are coming into the space. I actually still see ETH potentially, the small probability upside is that it hits 40,000 by the summer. That's because of the staking cycle and how the charts look, and using the log chart, extending it forwards, and a number of things give me that. It's not my base case. My base case would be 20,000 ETH by March at the latest.
If we do see a 10K ETH, I always see will be 100K Bitcoin, 20K ETH, 200K Bitcoin. Do you look at a similar type of ratio between both, or do you think they're discrete?
I think the ratio is changing, and it's going to go to something significantly different than, so if it's 12 now, it probably goes to 7, 6. So I think that's what that ETH Bitcoin chart is telling me. So I think that relationship's going to shift over time.
6 is flippening territory.
Yes, exactly. I think we're going to, my guess is this cycle, we don't get a proper elongated bear market. And by an elongated bear market, I'm not talking down 80, I'm talking about down 50 and it stays down for 9 months and bores everybody out, kind of thing. I think that happens when the flippening happens, and we'll readjust again and Bitcoin will become the larger asset. I think the flippening has not a high probability, a decent probability.
Yeah.
In the next 9 months.
How does Ethereum stay ahead of this murderer's row of faster, cheaper chains that are already ETH 2.0 already? Does that concern you at all? Or does network effect combat that?
The actual answer is I don't care. Of course, ETH's dominance, like Bitcoin's dominance, will fall over time, because new technology comes into the space and they solve different problems, and they have different orders of centralization versus decentralization. There's trade-offs, and that's absolutely fine. So the Bitcoin dominance is going to diminish over time. ETH dominance will diminish over time. Sol's dominance versus others will diminish over time, because this space is changing in structure. So I don't have an issue with that. I'm not an ETH person. I'm just like, this is the best horse to back, best risk-adjusted return. I'm a crypto maximalist. I totally believe that this is the future of all digital value. But my job is to select which horse to back and when. My job is not to come at this with a philosophy of it can only be one. This is not Highlander here. We're in the investment business. And we're also in the business of changing the world's business models and distributing wealth and all of that stuff. So let it play out how it plays out.
But in terms of your investment conviction right now, in terms of your position, with your options, you're 82% ETH, which is very heavy conviction in my opinion.
Yes, and I think that Solana will outperform ETH in this cycle.
Yeah. And
I think that Terra will outperform ETH. So why don't I have all my money in those? Because I have less certainty, because the network effects are less pronounced. So therefore I have to have a smaller bet.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think ETH stops going up. The whole space is going up 100x over the next 10 years. So, you can back a lot of different horses and still make money. The network is actually not the technology, it's the people that use it. That's the key point here. So if it continues to attract nodes and interconnections between the nodes in its new format, then it's survived yet another Lindy test. We saw this exact same thing with Bitcoin in 2017 with the forking wars. And that was the biggest Lindy test. In fact, it threw me off Bitcoin. I sold, I bought Bitcoin at 200 back in 2013, sold it in 2017 for 2,500 early because of this. And I'm like, is it going to survive this S-curve moment or not? And I wasn't sure. So I couldn't commit capital to it. Now, is Ethereum going to survive this S-curve moment? The probability is is high because of the network effects and how robust they are, but it's not certain. So would I want to reduce my ETH exposure after we've gone into this? Probably. Are there other opportunities in different areas in crypto? Of course. So I do think we get a big run into end of year, and we will probably start to see a sell off early Jan or late Dec because people are expecting something, and I think it will be wholeheartedly wrong because I see nothing but a wall of money coming in Jan, Feb, March.
Yeah.
I also think that the ETH staking cycle has changed the structure of markets. It may even be more dominant eventually than the Bitcoin halving cycle. And when most people think they've figured it out, it all changes. It happens endlessly. So I'm thinking, what is the path of most pain? Because every person now thinks, well, what I'll do is I'll reduce my exposure in December, I'll keep hold of some, and then I'll buy it back at the bottom when it's down 80%. I know how to do this. So the likelihood is it doesn't go down that far, and it repeats what we saw this year, which was big run, decent sized sell-off, takes 6 months before it takes out the high, screams for a new high again. Everyone panics in, sells off again, and it keeps going up in this jagged pattern to new highs because we're now at the teeth of the adoption curve.
Yeah.
You know, central bank digital currencies, institutions, Twitter, Facebook, everybody's starting to see the adoption. So I think it's going to change the structure, and it's going to be a bit harder because we had this nice, neat narrative that I think is going to fall apart. And I'm open to that possibility. Again, I'm not anti-Bitcoin in any way. The answer is right now, I don't know. But I think Solana plays a role. Could it be larger than ETH over time? Potentially. Could there be a flippening? Possibly. It depends what people need the network for. And if the fees don't get resolved and people want more speed because we want different transactions, maybe Sol. But is Sol fast enough to solve the securities industry needs? Because they're all going on blockchain. Well, then you've got something like internet computer, which everybody hates, but it's bloody fast, but it's more centralized.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that solves the bigger need. People frame it so much in terms of Bitcoin and the ultimate decentralized asset. Yes, that's Bitcoin's USP. Nothing else is Bitcoin. So can the internet computer's super fast blockchain? I don't even own it. So, there's a lot of haters out there. I don't own it, but I observe that they're building something pretty unique.
Yeah.
Could that play a big role? Could that be the ETH of the next cycle? Could be. It could also not. It could fail. I don't know. It's getting some network effects. Look at Bitcoin. It is riddled with its own restrictions because of its perfection in what it does.
Yeah.
So you have to build the Lightning layer to do any transactions because it's useless for transactions. And it can't do big block sizes, it can't do fast, it can't do a lot of things. ETH comes along, it can do all of those things. But now ETH may not be fast enough, good enough, secure enough, whatever, to do different things. So like Bitcoin, we're seeing these things being built on, but it's a bit late. So Ethereum may build some of this stuff on, but it may be used elsewhere, which is kind of what you're alluding to. Probably. But will people stop using Ethereum? Highly unlikely at this stage. But I cannot see into the future because once you've got interoperability, if people decide that some other new chain is better, you can basically migrate everything across chain.